This presentation summarizes the progress made in small-scale physical processes affecting the interaction of oil with the marine environment. A partial list of researchers that contributed to this effort include C.J. Beagle-Krause, Michel Buffadel, Marcello Ciamecchi, Tony Dalrymple, Vijay John, Jian Sheng, Kate Tibby, Di Yang, and Andrea Prosperetti. I'm Joe Katz from Johns Hopkins University. I was a member of the DROPS consortium, but other participants in this work were part of other consortia. In this slide, we summarize the state of knowledge about small-scale physical processes prior to the Deepwater Horizon spill and to the formation of Gomri. Starting with dispersants. We knew that dispersants reduce the oil-water interfacial tension, reducing the size of droplets generated by wave breaking. However, the quantitative information was quite limited. The Deepwater Horizon spill was the first time that dispersants were used in an underwater well blowout. There was no prior knowledge on the impact of subsurface injection on the dispersion of the spill. However, dispersant was used underwater, for example, during the 1968 Santa Barbara spill. Modeling of the droplet size distributions was based on the turbulence length scale surface tension, even for oil treated with dispersant. Understanding of the role of tipstreaming was just introduced, but not quantified. Little was known on generation of micro and nano aerosols. Interfacial processes occurring at oil-water interfaces were not really understood, including effects of complex boundaries, attachment of particles to interfaces, attachment of bacteria at interfaces, bacterial film forming at interfaces, compound droplet formation, etc., etc. As an example, a detailed set of experiments performed in my laboratory quantified the impact of dispersant and oil properties on the droplet size distribution. This example shows results for varying concentration of dispersant to oil ratio, the so-called DOR. Increasing the DOR changes the slope of the size distribution and causes a drastic reduction in droplet sizes. For DOR of 1 to 100 and 1 to 25, the number of droplets larger than 100 microns is very small. It should be noted that the minimum sizes here are a reflection of the limitations in the measurement techniques. We use digital holography here. There were clearly many more smaller droplets, well into the sub-micron range. For oil without dispersant, these data agree very well with predicted characteristic droplet sizes. This is not the case for oil mixed with dispersant. In this case, we discovered that the microdroplets that were much smaller than the characteristic turbulence scales are generated by an interfacial phenomenon called tipstreaming. Tipstreaming involves generation of long oil strings extending from separation points on the surface in cases where the local interfacial tension is very low. It is caused by transport of dispersant by shear as the oil droplet rises in a turbulent flow. The series of pictures shows the development of the tails, and the pictures on the right shows that eventually they break up into microdroplets. This breakup occurs as the dispersant dissolves in the water, causing an increase in interfacial tension, hence capillary instabilities. A detailed theoretical analysis by Tseng and Prosperetti shows that the process involves an interfacial instability that occurs near a zero vorticity interfacial point. This slide shifts to the generation of oily aerosols by breaking waves. Experiments in our wave tank quantified the generation of aerosols and volatile organic compounds. While the measurements cover the entire size spectrum, the discussion here focuses on the nanodroplets. The top figure shows that the nanodroplet size distribution remains nearly the same for seawater, crude oil, with and without waves. However, as shown in the bottom left, Premixing the oil with dispersant at DOR 1 to 25 increases the nanodroplet concentration by 1 to 2 orders of magnitude. In contrast, adding dispersant reduces the concentration of volatile organic compounds as shown on the right side. This trend is consistent with prior field observations. Subsequent measurements have shown that the dispersant increases the mass of airborne crude oil by about 2.3 times. Recent experiments involving a series of crude oils have shown that while the extent of nanodroplet generation varies with oil properties, adding dispersant increases the nanodroplet concentration in all of them, including oils with the most volatile components removed. Finally, it should also be noted that the mechanism causing generation of nanodroplets is not a resolved question. An enormous effort has been invested in measuring and modeling the size distributions of droplets generated in oil jets and plumes, too big to summarize in this presentation. Among them, one should mention the extensive effort in SINTEF to characterize the effect of dispersant by Johansen, Brandvik, and colleagues. It has resulted in a popular semi-empirical model for the droplet statistics. In parallel, work at NGIT by Buffadell's group introduced the V-drop-J population balance model that accounts for hydrodynamics, breakup, and coalescence of droplets. Applications of larger simulations to characterize plume dispersion is a challenge because of the multi-scale physics involved. Extensive work performed by Yang and Chemeki has led to many findings about the plume dynamics. For example, they found that dispersant enhances the vertical mixing of oil, and that gas dissolution of bubbles causes a significant reduction in plume buoyancy. Using a new population balance model, they successfully reproduced experimental data that we obtained for jet in a cross-flow. Finally, a theoretical and computational study by Chu and Prosperetti investigated the effect of multiple substances on the dissolution rate of oil in water. For jets in a cross-flow, studied in a towing tank, our measurements have shown that dispersant changes the entire shape of the jet. The bottom of the jet is affected by the so-called counter-rotating vortex pairs, showing on the bottom left. The top is dominated by the rise velocity of large droplets. This finding indicates the initial breakup of oil into droplets, which dominates their size distribution, is key to understanding of all the subsequent dynamics. Hence, our next series of studies have focused on the initial breakup of oil jets. To characterize the near field of jets, we match the refractive index of silicon oil with that of sugar water. They have the same density ratio, viscosity ratio, and interfacial tension as crude oil and seawater. Illuminating the jet with a laser sheet and adding dye to the oil were used for visualizing the near field of the jet. Three cross-sections of the jet for different velocities are shown in this slide. In addition to the obvious effect of Reynolds number or the droplet statistics, note that what we thought were oil droplets looking from outside were actually compound droplets, i.e. they contain smaller water droplets which sometimes contained even smaller oil droplets in them. In fact, as demonstrated in this movie, data analysis has shown that the fraction of droplets that were compound increased with droplet diameter, reaching 80% for 2 mm droplets. Note that while the exterior surfaces have odd shapes owing to the turbulent shear, the interior droplets are nearly spherical. They are sheltered by the layer of high-viscosity oil. Microfluidics were used to study microscale interactions between microbes, particles, and oil droplets. This work was performed by Jian Sheng at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Gradation of 5 to 100 micron droplets by bacteria isolates and natural microbial consortia, with and without dispersant, has been measured over a surface textured with microdroplets shown on the right. For 100 to 1000 micron droplets, a microcosm platform allowed examination of bacterial behavior and microbial community responses around rising microdroplets. They demonstrated the formation of polymeric microbial aggregates and extracellular polymeric substance streamers around the rising droplets. These streamers are clearly evident in the images shown on the right. Velocity measurements have shown that these streamers can increase the drag on the drop by as much as 80%. Research focusing on interactions of bacteria with alkane aqueous interfaces performed by Katz at University of Pennsylvania has shown that these interactions depend strongly on the particular bacteria strain. The bacteria can either swim adjacent to the interface or adhere to it, where they can remain mobile or change into a sessile state. In some cases, the films change their properties to ballistic and then to diffusive and somber, indicative of glossy rheology. Thereafter, the bacterial mobility is suppressed and they form a thin, solid, elastic film. You can see the film on the right side. Some, but not all of the observations suggest that the ability to form the elastic film relies on the ability to metabolize the oil phase. The motility of bacteria near interfaces display a range of behaviors, including a Brownian motion, circular, and directed swimming. They can also enhance the dispersion and transport of microscale objects. There are many other findings, too many to fit into a single presentation. Here are a couple of them. For example, experiments performed in Buffadell's group showed that oil particle aggregates form stabilized emulsions. Placing them in a tubular flow causes a reduction in the droplet size in time, presumably due to grinding. These particles also penetrate into the droplets. Another topic involves oil-water interfaces. When an oil droplet rises through water and crosses an oil-water interface, it doesn't mix with the surrounding oil for a long time. Visualizations of the interface have shown that the droplet remains encapsulated in a thin water film with thickness well below 1 micron for a long time. Eventually, the film breaks up to form a nanoemulsion. Presence of multiple rising droplets generates a separate layer, as shown on the bottom left. Like all academic studies, they generate as many questions as they answer. This slide is a sample of questions that the recent findings and understandings have generated. For example, what is the effect of bacterial biofilm on the stability of droplets? What about our ability to produce environmentally benign biosurfactants? What about their dynamics? What is the effect of surfactants on the dissolution of droplets? What is the dynamic of oil particle bacteria aggregates? The properties, stability, and dynamics of emulsions, as well as means to disperse them. The mechanisms generating nanodroplets and their stability. Incorporation of the data and understanding into predictive computational models of complex processes in the ocean. Furthermore, a topic that I didn't have enough time to address involves development of caged or targeted or gel non-toxic particle-based dispersant. Considerable creative advancements in this area have already been made by Vijay Jones' group, which I didn't have time to address in a way that would give it the proper recognition. Also, development of effective herders to enhance the efficacy of in-situ burning would be an interesting and valuable challenge. Finally, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the GOMRI leadership. It has been an amazing ride. We will all miss you.